Here's a look at a recap of your markets on this Friday, the 3rd day of October. It is Friday, and that means it's almost the weekend. If by some chance you're not going to be in a combine this weekend and you're looking for something to do, I got a solution for no matter what kind of problem you might have. If you're a bit short on feed, there'll be a hay auction in Southwest Missouri at the Southwest Missouri Hay Auctions on Saturday, 10 o'clock sharp. They have a big listing this month. Round bales, small square bales in bundles, and big square bales. And they have quality all the way from grinding hay up to dairy quality hay. Quite the offering will be listed there on Saturday up for sale. Now, if you got enough feed and you might need a few cows, well, Mocan Livestock Market, they've got a special cow sale Saturday. It'll take place at 1 o'clock. They've got about 1,000 head listed, and some awful fancy dispersals will be up for offer there. Taking a look at what happened in the markets this week around the state and nationwide. Box beef cutout values, they continued to decline. Choice was down $9.16 for the week at $362.27. Select down $7.06 at $345.38. Volume on Friday, 163 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. The Choice Select spread narrowed to $16.89. Negotiated feedlot trade as of the 2 o'clock cutoff time, 38,076 head reported. Basically nothing happened negotiated in the Southern Plains this week. Texas turned in 25 head, Kansas 300 head. In the North, Iowa turned in 14,516 head, Nebraska 14,150 head. The live sales generally $2 to $5 lower for the week. Dress sales $5 to $7 lower. Most of the live sales took place at 2:30. Dress sales mostly at $3.60, but some of the trade later on in the week that drug on was a bit lower than that, with some live sales reported down at $2.28, some dress sales at $3.57 and $3.58. Taking a look at what happened at the auction barns this week, markets were very uneven, especially on the calves, as we're starting to get into some of those temperature swings. And health risk plays a big part in what buyers are willing to pay up for the calves, maybe even more so than quality at this time of year. The Missouri Stocker formula this week closed Friday at $418.38. That was down about $10 for the week. The CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index on Friday, based on an 800-pound steer up through the 12-state feeding region, Friday's value $362.57. That was down about $5 for the week. Now, the yearlings scattered around the auctions here in the state of Missouri, they were awful close to steady. Some of the low lots, sure enough, sold a bit higher than last week, and there was some stick-out sales of some calves that sold higher, but just as many that sold lower. So it was quite the mixed week throughout the auctions here in Missouri. A few stick-out sales, some drafts over 20 head this week. Lawley Brothers Livestock Market in Macon, they sold 37 head of 487-pound steers at $524. F&T Livestock Market in Palmyra, they had 24 head of 565-pound steers at $457. Mid-Missouri Stockyards in Phillipsburg, they had 33 head of 628-pound steers that brought $434.50. 39 head of 655-pound steers at Joplin Regional Stockyards sold at $429. Tina Livestock Market, they sold 149 head of 703-pound steers at $413.25. Joplin had 156 head of 766-pound steers at $389. Green Sea Livestock Market, they sold a full load of 859-pound steers at $359. And then Wheeler Livestock Auction in Osceola, 122 head of 900-pound steers at $349.25. Taking a look at some stick-out sales of the heifers, 22 head of 514-pound heifers at F&T Livestock Market in Palmyra. They sold at $410. Lawley Brothers Livestock Market in Macon, they had 3 full loads of 659-pound heifers, 222 head of them. they sold at $395.35. And then Green Sea, they had 188 head of 722-pound heifers that sold at $375. Total volume this week around the state going to end up being around 32,000 head, so a pretty good week as far as movement goes for early fall. Taking a look at the livestock futures, a lot of volatility in the futures markets this week, both in livestock and cattle. They seem to love the rumors lately, no matter what they might be. The beans, they tried to climb higher for the week based on some talk of possibilities of trade developing with China. Of course, we haven't seen any exports whatsoever this entire year, and that's really weighed on the grain contracts. On the livestock side, there was absolutely nothing official announced as far as trade with Mexico goes. However, the Food and Drug Administration did approve Decamax CA1 for the prevention and treatment of New World screwworm. And boy, that led to a lot of fears of the possibility that the Mexican border could open back up. And sooner or later, it eventually will. But as of today, there has been nothing from any U.S. officials. That being said, officials in Mexico keep saying that the border will open in November, but nothing to substantiate any truth to that. The livestock futures this week, October live cattle ended the week 78 cents lower. The rest of the contracts were 20 to 67 cents higher. Lean hogs for the week, 205 to 375 lower. Feeder cattle, the nearby contract, 17 cents higher. They stretched all the way out to $3.55 higher come next spring grass time. On Friday, October live cattle up 50 cents at 231.02. December 234.50 up 102, and February 236.82 up 87. October feeders up 287 on Friday at 357.17, November 355.42 up 302, and January 349.72 up 255. Lean hogs for October 98.97 up 30, December 62 higher 87.30, and February 89.30 up 85. Turning our attention to the grain markets now. At the elevators around the state on Friday, corn bids were mixed, 4 lower to 13 higher. Beans, 5 lower to 14 higher. Wheat was unchanged to 2 higher. On Friday, corn bids in St. Louis, 427 to 429. Kansas City at 393. Soybean bids on Friday in St. Louis, 1004 to 1009. Kansas City, 953 to 973. And wheat bids in St. Louis, $4.55 to $5 higher. On the Board of Trade, for the week, the soybeans did end up 3 to 4 cents higher. Wheat 3 to 5 lower. Corn stayed at 3 lower. Kansas City wheat was down 5 to 9 for the week, and soybean meal $1.90 to $4.30 higher. On Friday, December corn down 2 3/4 at $4.19. March down 2 1/4, $4.35 3/4. November beans 5 3/4 cents lower for the day, $10.18. January at $10.37, down 4 3/4. Wheat for December up a half cent at $5.15 1/4. March unchanged at $5.32 1/2. Soybean meal for October down 60 cents a ton at $2.70.70. Soybean oil for October 49.43 a hundredweight, down 39 cents. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a look at all your markets from this week. This is Tony Hancock.